Good morning, students. And in this class, we start a new chapter, semiconductor devices. Okay, semiconductors. Now, what are semiconductors means? Semiconductors are the materials whose electrical properties lie in between that of conductors and insulators. Okay, that means their resistance or free electron density or their forbidden energy gap, all these properties, that means electrical properties, are in between that of conductors and insulators. That means whatever the property is greater than that of conductivity, if you take less than that of conductors but greater than that of insulators. If you take resistivity, resistance is greater than that of conductors and less than that of insulators. Okay. So, semiconductors are the materials whose electrical properties lie in between that of conductors and insulators. If we compare the three properties like this, 1 minute, you take conductors, semiconductors, insulators. Okay. Now, if we take first property as resistivity, we take the resistivity. The resistivity is 10 to the power minus 5 or less ohm meter, and for that of semiconductors it is between 10 to the power 5 approximately ohm meter, and this is greater than 10 to the power 5 ohm meter. If we take second property, conductivity of the material depends upon the free electron density. Free electron density means number of free electrons or number of free charge carriers per meter cube volume. So, number of electrons in meter cube volume. So, this is about 10 to the power 28 in the range per meter cube, and about semiconductors it is 10 to the power 22 per meter cube, and for this it is 10 to the power 14 per meter cube. And if we take forbidden energy gap, easy, and for conductors it is 0 to 0.2 electron volt, and for semiconductors it is 0.7 to 1.4 electron volt and greater than 5 electron volt. So, these are the these are the typical values are approximately their properties like resistivity, free electron density and forbidden gap. If we consider these conductors, its resistivity is less than 10 to the power minus 5, and that of semiconductors it lies in between 10 to the power minus 5 to 10 to the power 5, and for insulators it is greater than 10 to the power minus 5. Free electron density, that means number of free electrons per meter cube volume are about 10 to the power 28 per meter cube for conductors, 10 to the power 22 for semiconductors and 10 to the power 14 for this one. And for forbidden energy gap is 0 to 0.4 electron volt, 0.7 to 1.4 electron volt and is greater than 5 electron volts. So, in all these properties, if we observe this, the properties of semiconductors are close to that of conductors. Okay. So, these the values of these semiconductors are in between that of conductors and insulators, but close towards these conductors, and That's why these are called semiconductors, because on increasing the temperatures, the resistance of semiconductors decreases, and that's why they become conductors. So these are called semiconductors. Okay. Now semiconductors means semiconductors are the materials whose electrical properties lie in between that of conductors and insulators. Now, energy band diagram of a solid. First we have to discuss about energy band diagram of a solid. What is energy band diagram is, according to our Bohr's model in the last topic, we have derived an equation that the energy of an electron in an atom is quantized. That means we have the energy of the electron in case of hydrogen atom, we have derived that 10 to the 13.6 by n square electron volt. This is our relation for an electron, energy of an electron in a hydrogen atom. Suppose we are, for simplicity, we are considering about hydrogen atom. So the energy levels are, first energy level E1 is minus 13.6, E2 it is 13.6 by 4, that is minus 3.4, and E3 is by 9, approximately 1.5 electron volt, and next one minus 0.85 electron. So these are the energy levels of electron So these are the energy levels of electron corresponding to a particular atom. Now we are considering a single isolated atom. That means if we consider only one atom, in that particular atom, the energy levels of electron are like, energy levels means nothing but the energy values of electron. Here these indicate the electron, the energy of electron is not a continuous, it is discrete. Okay, what is discrete means? Electron has to possess either 3.4 minus 3.4 electron volt or minus 15 point electron volt or 13.6. That means electron is allowed to possess an energy value of these four values. That means electron is not allowed to possess a value of 10.2. That means in between these two values. That means electron has to possess either 13.6 or 3.4. These two are allowed values. And next, minus 1.5 electron volt is allowed value. That means the energies of electron are quantized. That means they are not continuous. That means electron cannot possess 11.4 value, 11.45, all these. That means any value in between these two is not allowed energy value for an electron. Okay, so this electron possess this type of energy values, then these values are quantized energy levels. Okay, now these are the energy levels corresponding to isolated atom, single isolated atom. That means if you consider only one atom, then the energy levels are like this. But in solid, that means when a solid is formed, it is a collection of atoms. It's a group of atoms. Also, in case of solids, these atoms are that means the intermolecular interatomic distance is small. So what happens is the electrons in the, suppose if you consider this is neutron, first, second, third, fourth, like this. Now the electrons, this is assume that this is the outermost orbit. Now the electrons in these atoms are very close to another atom like this. So in a particular solid, the atoms are like this. That means very close to each other. So that the energy values of electrons which are in the innermost orbits has no effect on one another. That means the energy values of this particular electron does not influence the energy values of this electron. But the electrons in the outermost orbit, they may affect the neighboring atom. That means energy levels of one atom are influenced by the presence of other atom. So due to this, instead of energy levels, energy bands are formed in solids. That means if you consider like this, so these energies, suppose this is the energy level corresponding to the outermost orbit. So we get a slight variation of energy when two atoms interact. That means very close to them, just like this. That means this energy level splits into two values, two very close values like this. Suppose if we consider a solid of n number of atoms, these lines split into n lines like this, very closely packed. Whereas the innermost orbits, there is no effect of one another. There is no influence of electron in the one innermost orbit to the another innermost orbit. So only the outermost orbit, energy levels of the outermost orbit are influenced by the presence of other atom, so that instead of energy levels, these energy levels split and form a closely packed group of energy levels, and this closely packed pack of energy levels is called energy band. Okay, due to the in case of solids, due to the influence of energy levels of one atom by the nearest neighboring atoms, each energy level splits into a finite number of closely packed energy levels, so that this group of energy levels is called an energy band. So that an electron can freely move from one level to another level to the other level without external energy within this band. That is, the electron is free to move within this energy band. Actually what happens is, when the electron in this assume that in this state, it has to excite from this state to this state, external energy has to be supplied to this electron. That means E2 minus E1. This much amount of energy is supplied to this electron, then only it excites to the higher level. But in case of these energy bands, there is no need to supply external energy, so that an electron can move from one level to another level, next level, next level. So electron is free to move within this energy levels within this band. Okay, and this is called energy band diagram. Okay, so due to the in the case of solids only, because in liquids and gases the atoms are very far from each other. The interatomic distance is large in case of liquids and gases. So in case of gases and liquids, there is no formation of energy bands, but only in solids, because the interatomic distance is small, so that the energy levels of one atom are influenced by the neighboring atom, so that the energy level splits into a group of energy levels, and that closely packed group of energy levels is called energy band. So every solid we have an energy band diagram like this. So the energy band corresponding to the valence electrons, that means outermost orbit, is called valence band. Okay, the energy band corresponding to the valence electrons is called, outermost orbit electrons is called valence band. Suppose if an electron escapes like this is the valence energy. Suppose the electron in the outermost orbit has energy eV. Now if electron gains external energy, and it becomes a free electron and becomes out of this atom. Okay, it comes out of this atom by gaining external energy, and that electron is called free electron. Okay, when electron in this outermost orbit gains external energy and becomes a free electron, and these free electrons are responsible for conduction of current in a solid actually. So whereas in case of conductors, at normal temperatures only these free electrons, that means electrons normal temperature is sufficient to get thermal energy, so that electrons becomes free electrons in case of conductors. But it is not in the case of insulators and semiconductors. Okay. Now, if the energy of the electron which became a free electron has an energy greater than eV. Okay. An electron which becomes a free electron, its energy is always greater than the energy of eV, that means valence energy. So, there is another band above this band, and that band is called conduction band. So, for any solid, the energy band diagram consists of a valence band. Usually we consider a valence band and a conduction band. Conduction band, valence band. So, suppose assume that this is actually what is valence band? It is a group of energy levels, closely packed energy level. Like this. So, the maximum energy of these energy levels is, suppose if we assume EV, and the lowest energy level in this conduction band is EC, assume that. So the energy band corresponding to the valence electrons is valence band, energy corresponding to the free electrons or conduction electrons is conduction band, and it is a group of energy levels, it is also a group of energy levels. In this group of energy levels, the highest energy is EV. In this group of energy levels, EC is the lowest energy level. Suppose if an electron in this valence band gets an energy equal to EC minus EV, then it excites from lower state to higher state. Okay. So, an electron in the valence band gains an energy equal to EC minus EV, it will excite to the conduction band. Suppose if the energy is less than this particular amount, it won't excite. Okay. Now, the energy difference, what is the energy difference between the conduction band and valence band is this one. That means this is the energy gap in which there is no allowed state for electron. That means electron has to possess either EV or EC, greater than EC or less than EV. But in between these two, EV and EC, there is no allowed energy state for electron. That means electron cannot possess any value in between EV and EC. Suppose if we assume that for a particular solid, this is 4.2 electron volt and this is 5.6 electron volt. That means the difference is 1.4 electron volt. And in this 1.4 electron volt difference, there is no allowed state. That means electron has to possess either 4.2 electron volt or 5.6 electron volt. In between these two values, there is no allowed value. So, and this gap, that means this difference in energy between EC and EV is called forbidden energy gap. Forbidden energy gap. Okay. So, EG denoted by EG, the forbidden energy gap. So, forbidden energy gap is the energy difference between the valence band energy and conduction band energy, and there is no allowed state for electron in this forbidden energy gap. Okay. So, for any solids, we have an energy band diagram like this. Lower levels we won't consider EV, EC. Suppose if we represent by EC like this, EV like this. So, this is valence band, this is conduction band, and this difference in energy is called EG, that is called forbidden energy gap. Usually this forbidden energy gap is taken as average EC minus EV. That means the energy difference between the lowest level of conduction band to highest level of valence band is called forbidden energy gap. Okay. Now, based on this forbidden energy gap, conductors has this forbidden energy gap. Conductors has forbidden EG value as 0 to 0.2. and semiconductors it is about 0.7 to 1.4 electron volt, and for insulators it is 5 electron volt, greater than 5 electron volt. That means if you consider solid, it is 0 to 0.2 means this energy difference, this gap between the conduction band and valence band is very small. If this is very small means external energy required to liberate to become a free electron is less. So it can easily become a free electron. That's why conductors. So if it is 0 means these two will overlap each other. In some solids, if this valence band and conduction band overlaps, then it is a conductor. So usually conductors will have a small amount of forbidden energy gap, or they may overlap. For semiconductors it is 0.7 to 1.4. If this gap is very large, then it is an insulator. So based on this energy band diagram, conductors, semiconductors and insulators are classified like this. So energy gap of conductors is very small, and that of semiconductors lies in between 0.7 to 1.4 electron volt, and for insulators it is greater than 5 electron volt. Okay. Now the semiconductors are usually fourth group elements. Semiconductors are usually fourth group elements. There are two types of semiconductors. So elemental semiconductors, compound semiconductors. Elemental semiconductors means the element itself is a semiconductor. Usually the elemental semiconductors are silicon and germanium. And these compound semiconductors are the compounds of fifth and third group elements. That is gallium arsenide, indium phosphide. These are compound semiconductors. These are elements itself semiconductors. It is the composition of two elements so that a compound is formed. That compound itself is a semiconductor. Usually compound semiconductors are formed by the third and fifth combination of fifth and third group elements, and this elemental semiconductors belongs to fourth group elements. Okay. Okay. Now if you if you consider silicon or germanium, they are fourth group elements, means they will have 4 electrons in their valence band. Okay. So these elements have 4 valence electrons in the outermost orbit. So they are 4 valence electrons. Now we can assume that if monatomic gas, diatomic gas and triatomic gas and this fourth group element, suppose if only one valence electron is available in outermost orbit, that is monovalent. So if external energy is supplied to that atom, only one free electron is removed. We get only one free electron from one atom. So in case of diatomic we get 2, for triatomic 3, 4. That means if the number of electrons in the valence outermost orbit increases, actually the conductivity also to be increased, because the number of free electron availability is increasing. Even though the valence electrons are 4 for semiconductors, their conductivity is low, because if you consider the silicon atom, actually silicon crystal in 3-dimensional has a tetragonal system, but trigonal symmetry, but in 2 dimensions, if we consider a silicon atom like this, it has 4 valence electrons like this. It has 4 valence electrons, but these 4 valence electrons forms covalent bonds with 4 neighboring silicon atoms. Like this. Like this. So that means if you consider any silicon atom, its 4 valence electrons forms 4 covalent bonds or electron pairs with nearest neighboring silicon atoms. Okay. When the temperature is at 0 K, when the temperature is 0 K, then the bonding of these solids will be strong, because as the temperature decreases, the interatomic distance will become less, so that these bondings will be very strong. These covalent bonds becomes very strong, so that all the 4 valence electrons available for silicon are tightly or strongly bound to their covalent bonds like this. That means there is no free electron available, so that conductivity is 0. So conductivity is 0 means it is an insulator. So at 0 K, semiconductor behaves like an insulator. Okay? At 0 K, semiconductor behaves like an insulator, because all the 4 valence electrons of a particular silicon semiconductor atom are tightly bound to the core covalent bonds with neighboring semiconductor atoms. Okay. Now assume that the temperature is increased slowly. Temperature is increased. So when the temperature is slowly increased, at a particular temperature, an electron in these bonds, by absorbing thermal energy, may break its covalent bond and comes out of this bond, and it becomes a free electron. Okay? That means if it acquires sufficient thermal energy, that means as the temperature increases, these electrons will also absorb thermal energy. At a particular temperature, if it acquires sufficient thermal energy or the external energy, it may break a covalent bond and becomes a free electron. Okay. Now this free electron, we get a free electron. Okay. Thus at 0 K there is no availability of free electrons, but as the temperature increases, at a particular temperature we get a free electron. That means slowly, that means not only here one, the number of electrons may get the sufficient energy and they become free electrons. That means conductivity is slowly increased, because if free electron density increases, conductivity increases. So now we get a vacant position, vacant bond here. An incomplete bond is here. Suppose if an electron, the nearest bonds, may break its covalent bond and fills this bond, fills this incomplete bond. So that what happens? Here we get a hole, here we get a vacant site, and electron becomes here. Suppose electron from here fills this electron here and they create a vacant site. That means this vacant site of electron, or incomplete bond incomplete bond is called a hole. Okay? The vacant site of electron, that means wherever an electron becomes a free electron, there is an incomplete bond. That incomplete bond or vacant site of electron is called a hole. Now if we observe that if this hole is filled by this electron, so that electron comes in this direction, hole moves to in this direction. Now when an electron from this site completes this bond, then this hole moves to this position. That means, suppose, 1 minute, suppose this is hole like this and electron is like this. Suppose when an electron from this position goes to this position, here like this, and from this position to this position, so hole is created here, electron here. That means if we observe the movement of electron, it appears to be the hole is moving in opposite direction. Okay? When electron from this position fills this, suppose this hole is filled by this electron, then the electron comes to this position, this hole transfers to this position. Now another electron from this position fills this hole, so that this electron transfers to this position, hole transfers to this position. That means here the hole appears to be moving opposite to the electron. Which electron? This bond electron, not free electron. Remember that here we got two types of electrons, a free electron and this bond electron, bound electron. Okay, when hole moves, when a bounded electron moves in a particular direction, the hole appears to be moving in opposite. Actually hole is not moving. Moving is electron is really moving, but hole appears to be moving. Okay, and this vacant site, what we can incomplete bond or vacant site, has an ability of accepting one electron. That means we consider it as a positive charge, positive charged part, positive charge. Assume that it can accept one electron. We consider this as positive charge, so that it becomes neutral again. Okay, this silicon becomes neutral again. Okay, so this hole is considered as positive charge, and as it appears to be moving, it has mobility. So we treat it as a particle, a positively charged particle. Okay, so in semiconductors there are two types of charge carriers which carry the electric current. They are positively charged hole, negatively charged free electron. Okay, remember that this bound electron is different from free electron. Okay, now what happens if the temperature increases? More number of covalent bonds break. More number of covalent bonds break means more number of free electron hole pair is generated. So whenever a free electron is generated means a hole is also created in that position. So as the temperature increases, more number of covalent bonds break and more free electrons are available. At the same time, same number of holes are also generated. So that means as the temperature increases, electron hole pairs are generated, so that this electron and free electron and hole are having mobility. They are considered as charge carriers. So in semiconductors, charge carriers are two types. They are free electron and a hole. So free electron has negative charge, hole has positive charge. So in semiconductors, two types of charge carriers are participate in electrical conduction, whereas in case of conductors we have only free electrons. Now if you observe that at the temperature 0 K, there is no free charge carriers, but as the temperature increases, if more number of covalent bonds break, more number of electron hole pairs are generated. That means free charge carriers increases with the increase in temperature. Okay, at 0 K there is no free charge carrier, but as the temperature increases, more number of free electron hole pairs are generated, means free charge carriers are increased. If increase in free charge carriers with the increase in temperature means what happens? That semiconductor becomes a conductor, because free charge carrier density is increasing means its conductivity increases. So as the temperature increases, resistance of this semiconductor decreases. Conductivity increases means resistance decreases. So semiconductor, so in case of semiconductors, as the temperature increases, resistance decreases. So these semiconductors possess negative temperature coefficient of resistance. Okay. Semiconductors possess negative temperature coefficient of resistance, means as the temperature increases, resistance decreases, whereas in case of conductors, they possess positive temperature coefficient. That means in case of conductors, temperature increases, then its resistance also increases. But whereas in semiconductors, they possess negative temperature coefficient, means their resistance decreases with the increase in temperature. Why with the increase in temperature resistivity decreases means as the temperature increases, more number of covalent bonds break and generate more number of free electron hole pairs. So that free electron charge density increases, resistance decreases or conductivity increases. So that's why at ordinary temperatures, at 0 K, semiconductor is an insulator, but at ordinary temperatures, it becomes a conductor. As the temperature increases, its conductivity also increases.